What's going on, you guys? How you doing tonight? God bless you. Thank you for coming to this Patreon here on Sons of God Ministries. You're probably looking at what you see on the screen and you're like, oh, what is that? Well, let's put it this way. This is a visual chart that I created yesterday that has to do with a biblical overview of what the scriptures are actually talking about within the Word of God. And tonight, here on this Patreon, we're actually going to break this down. We're actually going to spend quite some time on this, and we're really going to dig into the scriptures on this. At first, it may look a little confusing. You might have to examine the information, but once you do, it's going to make completely and perfect sense. Now, before we begin this, I want to start out with this. There is a view that originated around the 1800s. It's called dispensationalism. Within this view, they actually believe that when the Jews didn't accept Jesus, the Apostle Paul was sent to the Gentile nations. And within this, it became what is known as the church age or the mystery age. They believe that there is a 2,000-year gap between the first coming of Christ and the second coming of Christ with these people called the church age. Now, what is important about this? And why is it so important to get this down? Well, I'm going to tell you this much. Within the dispensational thought, there is definitely a gap. But it's not where we think, actually. It has nothing to do with a mystery church age. Matter of fact, like Paul says in the book of Galatians, that through the seed of Christ, this is the promise of Abraham. This is the promise that Abraham was given. There is a gap, though, between the promised seed, and it is actually within the 1,500 years of the Mosaic Law, which is very important to understand. Now, as you see this up on the screen, basically, I had an epiphany the other day, and I felt like the Lord was drawing me into creating this graph, into creating this chart. And if you take a little bit of time with me, we're going to do an overview of this, and I believe after it, it's going to make perfect sense, okay? Take it for what you will. In other words, you don't have to accept necessarily what I have to say about it. Go do an examination on the scriptures for yourself. But what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to begin at the beginning of time in Genesis chapter 1. Now, let's go ahead and incorporate the scriptures into this chart. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go back and forth between this chart and between the scriptures that are in view. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this.